Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. The first budget of the Modi 3.0 government will be presented tomorrow. And of course, there are the usual things that economists and people who are looking at things from a macro perspective will be looking at in this budget. For example, will they sustain the growth momentum? Will they manage the fiscal deficit? Will the investment in infrastructure continue to have a reasonable increase? Will the overall focus of Modi 3.0 indicate certainty or not? And viewers, in that context, one word which always comes up is continuity. Since Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been elected for a third term, though with lesser numbers, the Prime Minister's focus has been to indicate that nothing has changed, that it is business as usual, that the lesser numbers of the BJP and of the NDA will not determine at least the course of policy making. Ladies and gentlemen, and therefore we have pretty much the same ministers in the same positions, some with expanded portfolios, and the continual focus of the Modi government has been continuity, continuity, continuity. It's almost as if this is a seamless 15-year term. That's the sense the government wants to give, which is all right. But one area where the government needs to change its thinking, and one area where the government needs to tweak its policies. And the one area where the Modi 3.0 government should be more expansive and generous than Modi 2.0 or 1.0 is vis-a-vis the middle class of the country. And I'm not saying that the Modi government must give more to the middle class or give them sops or appease them. No. All I'm saying is that the Modi 3.0 government must be fair to the middle class of this country. And what do I mean by being fair? Let's put a few things clearly out there, viewers. The middle class is the greatest contributor in terms of taxes, but they don't get any tax breaks. It's time they get some. A rise in income means that it may not be fair to put everyone who gets 1 lakh rupees and above in a 30% tax bracket. That does not, and the government must realize, it does not incentivize income tax itself. It does not incentivize volumes. The government has been reasonable, more than reasonable, to corporates. It slashed the corporate tax rate from 30% to 22%. But did the middle class get any breaks? Absolutely none. Ladies and gentlemen, at the highest levels, tax is at 40%, and I'm not talking about the effective rate of taxation. Because if you include everything else, some say the effective rate of taxation for the highest tax brackets is over 55%, and they are not wrong. Also, we must realize this is a country where, in turn, this is not a socialist economy. We may say we are socialist, we are not a socialist economy. The support systems are poor. The infrastructure that the average citizens gets by way of paying taxes is not of reasonable expectations. Health services, for example, hospitals, there's a huge qualitative difference in medical care between the government setup and the private setup, which means pretty much, very often, the same tax-paying Indian citizen is left to fend for themselves when it matters. Viewers, the BJP must realize this has a political impact. The middle class is decisive. The numbers of the middle class have an impact. As of now, last estimation that the middle class is over 30, 31, 32% of the population. The middle class has been the base of the BJP. Maybe it is because of a certain level of disenchantment that the middle class has moved away. Yes, there will be people who will say the middle class largely voted for the NDA. It did. But in percentage terms, it came down by 3%. And for the Congress, it went up by 2%. Yes, the BJP still gets more of the middle class vote than the Congress or opposition parties, but there has been a marginal decline. The BJP must realize that in order to have continuity of its policies, it needs to continue to get voted into power. it must not make the mistakes that have been made by previous regimes, like the Atal Bihari Vajpayee regime, which went so much for the Shining India futuristic program that it disregarded the fact that there was a middle class disenchantment. And therefore, when the middle class turnout in the elections of 2004 was much less than projected, we all know what happened. The BJP lost power in 2004. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not looking at all of this in terms of a bargaining chip. All that I'm saying is, a corporate is taxed for profit, which means taxed on the surplus they have earned. An individual is not taxed on anything minus deductions. An individual is taxed on their total income. Therefore, life is much tougher for middle class individuals today than it was earlier, and life is much easier for corporates today than it was earlier. And that's where we have to strike a balance. Viewers, I personally believe that it is time for the middle class to get a break. Not because they've been the usual supporters of the NDA, or most of them have been. It's because they deserve it. And if you're a tax-paying, salaried, honest citizen of India, tell me, wouldn't you agree with me